Welcome to Bare Bones. With your host, Danny Meehan and Dr. Mason West.
Welcome into this episode of Bare Bones. As always, I am Mason West, Danny Meehan here, co-hosting, and we have special guest Brendan Sugrue here, assistant editor for the Bears Wire, saxophone player, St. Ambrose alum, semi-golf player, and soon-to-be dad. Brendan, how you doing?
I'm good. That's it's quite the intro.
I was gonna say, that's a hell of an intro.
I was telling Mason before you joined, Danny. I totally forgot I made a tea time for like 1 o'clock, and I'm like, I may be running late trying to get home from it, but we sped through it. Shot at 99, not the worst, but still not bad for one of the first rounds of the season, and yeah, get to come back, talk some Bears with you guys. So happy to be on.
I am far too anxiety-ridden to ever actually go play 9 or 18 holes, as I'm like fairly good. My short game, my shipping is great. My drive is terrible. So I would just be sitting there being like, oh my God, people are judging me. Oh, the group behind me is trying to go past, and I couldn't do it.
That is tough. I get in my head sometimes like that too. I had a moment, or I had a few holes in the middle where I started to melt down. I felt the pressure from people behind me. But you got to take it one shot at a time. Like next shot, it's like football, like next play mentality, next shot mentality. And if you got like your short game already like pretty good, I mean, that's half the battle right there, man. So, I'd kill for some good short game right now. My drives and my lawn irons are pretty good. But I don't know, you just got to get out there and give it a shot.
On that note, I played probably 5 or 6 times in the last month. The problem is the person I play with is very good, and he's 6'4". I'm 5'11". So you can imagine the clubs I'm using, which are his back upset, are a touch too long for me. But I broke down this week and was like, I really enjoyed it. I was like Mason, far too anxiety ridden, far too accomplished amateur athletically to want to learn a new sport at this point in my life. And I bought my own clubs. I did a ton of research and spent nowhere near what some people do, but enough to make me know I'm going to have to commit to this to some extent to justify what I just did. And yeah, we're here.
We're here. Well, we're about to talk about a bunch of guys that hope to be playing golf for fun and not be caddying for some people in the future if they can't make it in the NFL here. We are doing our mock draft. This is the 5th one that we've done here on Bare Bones. As a reminder, Danny and I cannot repeat picks. So, if we don't pick the person you love, it's probably because there's a good chance we already talked about him. But we get also a fresh set of eyes here with Brendan joining us. So first off, right off the bat, in our mock draft, round 1, pick 25, Danny and I actually ended up going with the same guy, Keldrick Falk, edge out of Auburn. And we don't go over these picks beforehand. This just kind of happened naturally. So I'll just dive into it, and then I'll have Danny go after that. 6'6", 276 pound with 34.5-inch arms. I mean, this dude was built in a lab by Dennis Allen. He's got a 35-inch vertical, 9'9" broad jump at the combine. He's a football infant, only 20 years old and the youngest prospect in the draft. But it's crazy because even with his young age, everyone that talks about him praises his leadership, accountability, character. His frame is still developing. So who knows where he could end up at the end of the day. Long levers to strike blockers, frame first, take early leads on snaps, has the tools to penetrate or maintain gap integrity on lateral run plays, able to open up edges with efficient sudden hands, and does a good job hunting down scrambling QBs. Like I mentioned earlier, he's got just some pretty crazy tools in terms of just his raw talent. On the negative side, though, his production did decline in 2025, but the tape is better than the numbers show. Auburn also deployed him across multiple alignments, including interior looks at 2 tech through 4 tech on about 30% of his snaps. So that's a role that's way less conducive to pass rush production. But he was willing to do it because that's what was best for the team last year. His upfield burst is about average currently, and he has a bit of a habit of overrunning the pocket depth instead of working back under. I wouldn't be surprised if he's gone by pick 25. Like, for example, I just feel like the Eagles are a team that's looming, but you see he's all over the place. You got some mocks that he's going as high as, I believe, 12. You have others that have him dropping out of the first round. But I mean, he's a ball of clay that some teams may want, who's more proven he's a ball of clay but other teams may want a guy who's more proven as a pass rusher. Maybe they prefer a TJ Parker type. But he really does the potential lineup at any spot in an odd or even fronts, depending on the down. So my next pick will align with this, because I feel like he can play outside or kick inside, which gives you some flexibility when crafting your roster. I mean, personally, I see kind of like a slightly smaller Eric Armstead type of guy. Danny, I don't know what your thoughts are.
I mean, a lot of the same talking points. Like I don't need to kind of go as in depth because you did, but he was much better in 24 than 25. He's a frustrating player because you look at his weight and his proportions and his levers and all, however you want to say it. He does not look like a man of his size. He looks very lean. He almost looks like a basketball power forward, but he clearly is that heavy. He weighed in that way. And I think you kind of said it best. If Dennis Allen could draw up what he wants his edge defender to look like, it is him. The player that comes to mind when I watch him is from the kid from, I believe, UTEP years ago that the Saints actually ended up drafting and trading up for to get him after he blew up the combine and pro day. I'm drawing a blank on his name. He was in
Marcus
Detroit.
Davenport?
Marcus Davenport. That's it. Like I was sitting here the whole time Mason was talking, like, why can't I think of his name? But that's kind of like where the idea of him at the moment is a lot better than the player he currently is. I actually like him more like the guy I kind of imagined when I said this last year, like if you could draw up the Dennis Allen edge in a lab, who would it be? It was Shamar Stewart. And I didn't like Shamar Stewart at all, especially because like of where you were going to have to take him. But I think this Keldrick's a better player than Shamar was, and you're getting him later. And he actually has a year with more than a sack. He had 9 sacks in 24. He had 3 last year. There was a fall off, but like Mason said, everyone swears by him since he's a great kid. Everyone looks to him for leadership and setting an example, et cetera, et cetera. Like, the thing I am most frustrated by for a man of his size with that wingspan and that ability to push the pocket and stuff, he should be able to, what they say, transition speed to power more. And he just doesn't. Like he doesn't like get his hands on people and just say, I'm going to long arm you or I'm going to bull rush you and I'm just going to push you back. Like, you are bigger and faster and stronger than generally anyone you're lining up against in college football. Why are you not just doing that? Like, I don't understand. It's like people making fun of in the tournament, Boozer's kid Cam, for just being a bully in the mid and high post. It's like, yeah, he's stronger than you. Dude, stop him from doing it. Like, and it's almost like I wish Keldrick Fault was a little bit more one note versus trying to show you everything he can do because he's so special at times in terms of like his physical makeup, but he just doesn't. So that's kind of my frustration with him. And he is just, for lack of better terminology, just utterly inconsistent.
Brandon, do you have any thoughts on how you would feel if the Bears end up going with a guy like Keldrick Falk here?
You guys hit a lot of the stuff I wanted to. And it's funny because the draft cycle, it feels so long that you have initial feelings about somebody, you kind of go into their stuff a little more, and then those feelings can change, and you kind of, remember where the Bears are picking. Way back when it felt like Keldrick Falk was more of a realistic option, because as you had said, Mason, like he's been mocked, in the high teens, like mid-teens, so it kind of feels like getting him at 25 is a little bit unrealistic at this point. But let's say back in February, it felt like he was kind of right in that sweet spot of the mid 20s. I wasn't very excited about it for a lot of the reasons that Danny pointed out. He's a frustrating player. It feels like he plays smaller than what his size actually is. From the size standpoint, he does fit what Dennis Allen would like. So from that standpoint, you feel like he's a great fit. But just the lack of production, just the way he moves, it is frustrating. So I feel like you want more out of that. But at the same time, you have to remember Bears are picking 25. You need like an impact starter of that at that point. Like you may not be able to get one of those blue chippers. So somebody like Falk makes sense there. And I've kind of come around a little bit on it, especially if he does fall to that point. I think trading up for him would be a mistake, but to give up assets for a guy like this. But if he's there, I'm okay with the pick. For a lot of the reasons you guys said, I just don't love the production. The Shamar Stewart comp is interesting because I thought about the same thing and I kind of pulled myself back. I'm like, I don't know about that. It just feels like maybe he's like Stewart's a little more, he was more built on traits or like he was hyped on traits. Falk doesn't have that same standpoint, but he has more production like you pointed out. So I don't love the player. I'd be okay with the pick.
Yeah, Marcus Davenport's what I just imagined and saw, but it's probably just a big, long, lean edge. And then I also have to remind myself, what does Dennis Allen truly want from his edge defenders? He wants bullies. He wants pocket pushers and edge setters. He doesn't want I shouldn't say he doesn't want to or doesn't care about like guys who are going to be double-digit sack guys, but it's on some level, I'm not sure he truly like is seeking that. Like
he kind of doesn't, right? He wants an edge that's going to set the edge and force to his smaller defensive tackles.
He wants you to force inside into his linebackers to clean up the mess. Mm-hmm. That's what he wants. Like, it's aggravating. And everyone was always like, well, he had Cam Jordan. He never called plays with Cam when he was the decision maker on defense for Cam Jordan. He was given Cam Jordan a Hall of Famer. And yeah, if you could tell Dennis Allen, like, you're going to draft Cam Jordan this year, I'm sure he'd take it. Because what of the 32 NFL teams wouldn't? But like, I genuinely don't know what Bears fans want from this pick because it's like every guy is so divisive.
Yeah. Well, that's what happens when you pick at pick 25. That's what happens when this draft is the strength is not in the first round. The strength is in the picks, 35 through 70-ish, like that. Yeah. And I mean, I know some people are pounding the table for guys. I mean, I mocked him previously to the Bears in the second round, Gabe Yakus, another guy, or like a Malachi Lawrence. And I don't know. It's the reason in this situation, I floated towards Falk is, yes, he has not had the production you would want to be there, but I feel like has a higher upside than those guys because of the tools. Because most of their production is, I'm just going to run through your face and it's effort work. Which you still want. They're still good players. Don't get me wrong. Mm-hmm. I also love those guys on the Bears, but there's a reason why Falk is, as Brendan also talked about, being talked about in the high teens as a pick, and a guy like Malachi Lawrence isn't. And I agree. If I had to put money on it, I don't think he's going to be available at 25. I just really don't. But you could see some pathways where he could be, like a run on some defensive backs that really could push him down. Again, this a flavor choice in terms of edge. If you're just looking for a look, I just want a guy that I know that I saw production out of him rushed in a very specific way. Then that's where you might go with that TJ Parker type or some of those other guys I mentioned. So there's a world that exists with it. But moving on, Brennan's time to go. Hit in round 1, pick 25. He went with Caden Proctor, tackle out of Alabama. This is only the second time in our mock that tackle has gone, and I think it's a real possibility.
Yeah, this is as I was thinking about playing with some mock drafts, one of the first ones I did, Proctor was available. And again, thinking back, when you're first starting out, like the draft process, February, March, at least for me, I know other people are way deeper into it. You're not thinking about tackle because you think that could be had later. Maybe the Bears just go with the stopgap with Ozzie Trapillo's injury, especially with bringing back somebody like Braxton Jones and signing Jedrick Wills. But I thought Ben Johnson's comments were very interesting at the owners' meetings this week when he said, he's like, we don't know what this is going to look like in a year or even 5 years, which is true. I think that is very important for everybody to understand. Things change so quickly in the NFL that it's hard to count on somebody for the next couple of years. But I just think that also shows real concern with Ozzy Trapillo's injury. And if somebody like Proctor's available, really one of the best like true left tackles in this game. There's a ton of right tackles, not people who play left tackle. Proctor is just a massive guy. The measurements here, 6'7", 352, just absolute massive frame, playing in Alabama. I wish he was, and I know I'm nitpicking here, but just maybe not like the dominant player who is just violent off the ball and just bullies guys, but he absorbs contact well. Guys don't get around him. He's got good bend. Sometimes a little bit indecisive when it comes to, whether certain plays happen where defenders are moving off. He's, getting stunts, a little late to catch them sometimes. But for a guy of his caliber, being available and knowing that you can potentially solve that left tackle position again, even though halfway through the season we thought things were good with Ozzy Trapillo, you just take away that uncertainty and getting somebody like Proctor. And you still have a couple veterans in Wills and Jones that you can maybe rely on if you don't want to put him out there week one, see if he can develop a little bit. The other reason I really think this pick would be excellent is because I just love what Dan Richard did for somebody like Darnell Wright. Wright, being as big as he wasn't as much of a bully as he could have been, at least consistently. Richard gets with Wright for one season, and he turns into a second-team All-Pro. I would love the chance to see what he does with a true left tackle, because remember, last year, Ozzy Trapillo was not playing left tackle well. He was, there was so much concern about whether it was going to be Jones, Benedette, Trapillo. Think of what he could do with a true left tackle from day one, getting into the building and molding him into a potential long-term starter. So I think if Proctor's there, you really have to consider it to solve that offensive line question.
Well, and I really like that you did this because we haven't talked about tackle really in the first round since I took Proctor in the very, very first mock. Mm-hmm. And I think what a lot of people are forgetting or overthinking is the idea of who they currently have at tackle and what that looks like. Because you have Judge Aguila signing for a 1 year, $1.2 million deal. Braxton has a 1 year, $5 million deal that could get up to $10 million with incentives, which obviously would probably be playing time as a part of that. And I think we're looking back at the Ozzy Trapillo experience a little bit with rose-colored glasses, where he was definitely better than a lot of people had expected when he didn't win the job coming out of camp. But it wasn't like he was playing. It was a top 10 tackle either. And his injury is gnarly. I mean, it is something that with my experience, I cannot say with any certainty that he will come back as the same player. And just if you have the opportunity to have an off ramp with something that you couldn't plan for in that injury, I think it would be silly to not have to think about that as a serious option in drafting a tackle like a Caden Proctor. So especially in a position that is as important as left tackle, you want to know for a fact that you have a guy that is there, that is going to be able to be there and hopefully for the foreseeable future. And currently the Bears do not have that.
They do not. Agreed.
No, I mean, that's pretty much all needs to be said. This came up a little early, but basically I traded away out of pick 57. I got a couple third rounders and a seventh rounder for that. Knowing that the Bears were picking 3 picks later at 60 in terms of the selection of players I had, I was comfortable moving back and honestly out of the second round there. All right, it's not popping up because I forgot to put it there. But anyway, we're doing a quick break here. It's at the end for some reason. I forgot to move it up. We're doing a quick break. We're going to talk about our live show. All right, in this quick break, we're going to talk about the Bare Bones live show on draft night. We're going to be live Thursday night at 3 Bar in River North. And if you're a Bears fan, this is the place to be. We'll be hanging out, talking draft picks in real time, and just soaking in the energy of one of the best nights of the offseason. We've got some awesome sponsors involved: Windy City Sports Cars, foam party hats, the legendary cheese grater hats, and a wild coat. But you may have seen I wore this Bears looking hat that looks like a bear head. That's going to be, you're going to get a nice gift card for that. Also, we're going to have a jersey or two to give away. If you come out, you'll be able to grab raffle tickets and have a shot at winning some great gear. On top of that, we're working on potential drink specials for the night. And last episode, I promised the first 5 people there that came up and talked to us, I'd buy them a drink. Danny, you get a drink regardless. You're not one of the five. So you can enjoy the draft without breaking the bank. Come out and hang with us, talk Bears, win some free stuff, grab a drink, and just enjoy the night. It's going to be a great time.
Hell yes.
All right, like I said, I traded out at 57, so I get to stop talking for a little while. But Brendan is staying at pick 57 and taking AJ Halsey, safety out of LSU.
I'm telling you, there was some mocks where Emmanuel McNeil Warren was there. I'm sure I messed his name up. But yeah, I still love the chance to get AJ Halsey there. Transferred out from Houston from 23 to 24 to LSU in 2025, first team All SEC. Just a really all around good safety. Doesn't have the high end speed that maybe some would like, but very instinctual. I'm sure you guys have talked about him a ton. I think this would just be an excellent pick there at 57. Just plug and play starter. I think he'd be great with Kobe Bryant too. Just the fact that, he's versatile, just like Bryant. I think, we know how much Dennis Allen likes to move chess pieces around and, just put guys in different places. I think with him, Bryant, Kyler Gordon, having the chance to, move those guys in different places would be excellent for the back end of this defense. Had a ton of interceptions the last couple of years. So yeah, I think, I was very happy with Halsey there. I was wondering if I would have to pivot because I was trying to get safety when I was doing this mock, and thankfully he was there. So yeah.
No, it's funny you say we've talked about him a lot, but Danny, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think anyone is taking Halsey.
I was going to say, I don't recall anyone taking AJ Halsey in our, he's never there. He's always gone.
Interesting.
Yeah. He's like Danny. He's always gone. From what I've watched of Halsey, I have a weird, I don't want to say love hate. It's a love question mark relationship with him where I agree. I think he's a super fun player. The production is awesome. The athleticism is awesome. He just has some deficiencies, not in like a terrible way, but just in a way that I don't know that he could be like the captain of your defense necessarily. Like you don't want him to be like your best safety. But the way the Bears are set up, it works out perfectly because he doesn't have to be. He can just go do AJ Halsey things, and Kobe Bryant holds down the fort.
So my personal Halsey issue, as much as I'd love him at 57, I think he's a really good option. He's got some weird body mechanical things where like you're asking him to like pick up and carry like a seam runner or something, and it's just ugly. Yeah. And at the NFL level, that's not going to work. Like, that's not going to work the same way it does at the NCAA level. And you can get away with, like, bad hip transitions or poor footwork or things like that at LSU. It's not going to work in the NFL, and it's going to end up getting you kind of punished. Like, I think he'd be a great pick. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying, like, if you want my honest opinion on him, that's just some things I've noticed where it's like, that's really gross. It worked in your favor because you're a better football player than whoever you're playing against at Texas Tech or whatever. But like, that's just not a good rep, like objectively speaking.
Yeah. And I also think, I mean, at this point, you're talking mid-second round, like there's going to be deficiencies with some of these guys. And we know
100%.
Yeah. So obviously you're not going to be able to, you could totally pick holes, poke holes in everything.
It's the nature of this. This draft sucks. Yeah. So,
unfortunately, yeah.
I think he's a great. Again, I like him as a player. It's just he needs to be in the and it's true for most players you're going to talk about. Like, so I'm to obviously take this to the master grain of salt. Just like the fact that he's like 5'11", a full 5'11", he's almost 6 foot, 215. His size is like a weird kind of size, and he runs like a 4.53 or something, I think, if I recall correctly. It's just an interesting combination for a guy for him. It's just he's interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Danny at round 2, pick 57, going with Traden Stukes, cornerback / safety out of Arizona.
So this is my safety pick. I understand he played corner at Arizona. But I don't think he's playing safety in the NFL. or a corner in the NFL. I think he's going to be transitioning to safety because he's just not going to be fit to play corner in the NFL. He ran a 4.33 40. He's got awesome ball skills on tape. He trusts exactly what's in front of him and how he sees it, but I don't necessarily know that he has the ability to turn and run with the ability he needs to as a corner, which is why I think he's going to need to flip into the safety role full time. If not, he's going to have to be like a nickel safety or dime safety, something like that. I want nothing to do with him playing outside corner or anything like that at the NFL level. My biggest caveat with him, and if anyone who follows my draft work or armchair draft like thought processes on things, on just purely tape, he's like an easy first round player to me. The problem is he's 25 years old, 26 years old, I think.
Yeah, 6-year senior.
Yeah, like I don't know how to separate sometimes what's a guy making an ascension versus just being a grown ass man amongst boys. And that might be Traden Stukes, but you start doing like some of the math and the homework on him, learning that he was like, I believe he was a defensive team captain. He's very much looked toward in the weight room and how he handles himself on the field. Like there's a lot of things there where it's like, I'm not drafting Traden Stukes to be the game changing, like tempo setting, like safety. I'm drafting him to be a steady floor raising safety kind of thing where it's like, I know what he's going to get and I don't necessarily need him to be a star. I just need him to not be terrible. Be a replacement level player next to
Is that what you wanted of a second round pick, to not be terrible?
Yeah.
I think it's like a starter that you can count on.
Yeah.
Like maybe he's. Let's say
he's an interchangeable safety who can probably cover single high, and he can carry vertical threats. Like, yeah, Mason. I don't want him to. Like if he can be a star, that's great. I'm not taking Traden Stukes because I think he can be a star.
Brendan, say your piece, then I have a follow-up question for Danny.
So the only thing I'll compare this to, and I'm not saying the player themselves is comparable, but think of Jaquan Brisker the last 4 years without the injuries, because I know that played a big factor. But if you had somebody like Jaquan Brisker's just play that you could at least count on, you know what you were getting. He was a 4-year starter and then he goes elsewhere. I mean, I think, yeah, you would have probably liked a little bit more, but you still got a solid starter for 4 years as a second round pick. And he was a higher second round pick. So I think of something like that. I get what Danny's saying. You at least get a dependable starter that you can fill a hole with. I think that makes sense.
So to continue that, so Danny, you're saying if he had a Jaquan Brisker-esque career with the Bears, minus the injury part, you'd be fine with that for him as the pick.
I'm not saying I'd be fine with it, but at some level, this defense is so goddamn awful. I need players that I can trust. Like, I really don't think Bears fans want to admit to themselves how truly bad this defense is. And it's only gotten worse from last year. And it was a bottom 5 unit last year.
I guess my pushback on that is I feel like, and I'm biased because I took the person later in this draft that I think could be above average and could get a second contract. And that's what I'm aiming for.
I'm not saying Traden Stukes can't get a second contract. I'm saying I'm not swinging on someone thinking in the second round when you need productive players right damn now that I don't know if he can be productive. Like,
okay, all right.
Like on
I'm
some level,
confused, but okay.
No, Mason, listen, like you can't just bet on traits all the time. Like you need someone who's going to play football at some point.
I just also think the way the Bears need a safety? Yes, that's why we are all taking safeties high in this draft. I'm not surprised. I have one coming up soon. But that being said, like, I don't think I will lose sleep at night if the Bears had to start Elijah Hicks for 6 weeks as a safety figured out what they needed to do. Like, he started for the Bears in the past and was not a train wreck. So I think that it's like okay in the short term.
Maybe. I think it depends on how I guess we just view the defense. I think the defense is an absolute train wreck.
No, the defense as a whole is butt. I mean, you know me, I'm pounding the table in our conversations we've had offline and in chats and stuff like that. People are saying the Bears are going to be worse next year. And I keep saying, but how? Because they were a bottom R30 defense in terms of every category outside of third down, essentially, and turnovers. So yes, this defense was butt, like straight dookie butt last year. But I just think that improvement is not necessarily coming from oh my God, you're not terrible safety pick in the second round.
Oh, you muted yourself.
Oh yeah, so they can't hear you.
While he's fixing that, I do think it's interesting in the conversation of like picking players who have been in college forever, and you just go back to like they finally put things together their final year, and it's like, okay, were they men amongst boys? Did they finally figure it out? I also think like being, especially the last couple of years, the Big 12. I'm just trying to even remember the last couple of years. Big 12 wasn't that great. So just, some of that production, how good is it? But look, guys played a lot of football. I like Danny thinking a little bit outside the box, like thinking, okay, instead of like a nickel corner, put him at safety. I also think we need to, like I mentioned with Proctor and Dan Richard, think about the coaches, think about somebody like Al Harris, somebody who has a lot of football under him. Maybe he can still reach another level or, maintain a good level with good coaching at that on the Bears, like somebody like Harris. So I think it's an interesting pick. I like you thinking a little outside the box, Danny.
And to be quite honest, the only reason I haven't taken him yet is simply because I really haven't seen him play safety. He's older and he has the ACL tear in 2024. Like his actual play is not the reason I have not taken him.
I mean, I hate older prospects. I just want someone who I think I can play right away, who I think is going to be good.
Very valid point. So Brendan also did a trade. He traded away a pick 60 and a future 6th round pick and got pick 69. Nice. And 106. So just stocked the coffers a little bit for this year. Danny also traded away pick 60 with the Patriots, moved back a couple spots to pick 63 and recouped a 4th rounder in the process. So we all traded out of a 2nd round pick. This is a pick for me that I teased this pick a bit earlier. I think this would pair well potentially with my Keldrick Falk pick earlier, and I think Danny will hate it, but it is what it is. I ended up going with Dennis Sutton out of Penn State.
Throw him away.
So he is a 6'6", 256-pound, 33.5-inch arm edge. At the combine, he ran a 4.63 40-yard dash with a 1.63 10-yard split, 39.5-inch vertical, and a 10-11 broad jump. He actually ran a 3-cone, which I respect because people keep not doing the 3-cone, even though for me it's one of the most telling, and that's probably why people aren't doing it, most telling of drills. But he had 6.9 result, which is a great time. And he scored an unofficial 9.93 RAS. On the positive side, tough player, plays with a high motor, agility numbers suggest untapped pass rush potential. That's what I'm hoping on. That has not consistently translated to game film yet. Heavy hands, jolt tackles, creates space to operate into the run and pass. Pretty smooth with his inside spins to open rush lane opportunities and can slide laterally with zone blocks to redirect against a cutback. Displays a pretty powerful pull and shed technique that I like. When rushing, he can be a bit too heavy-footed and too predictable and linear. Runs through a tackle's chest instead of plotting separate trajectory points. Limited bend to shrink the pocket and place too high. Lacks tackle range and can be wiggled into misses by runners. Penalty totals need cleaning up. A lot of roughing calls popping up way too frequently. I only watched 3 games and he got called for roughing a good number of times. He's pretty effective against the run, but his pass rush upside is currently limited in terms of what his production has been, but I think it could be better with the right coaching, just simply because of the bend he does have and the overall athleticism he does have. The ceiling, if the combine athleticism starts showing up more consistently in the games, is a defensive end who can rush the passer in volume and justify a bigger role. How quickly he develops counters and learns to use those and will test his explosiveness on every snap and will have very potentially separate outcomes. So someone else might say, "Hey, Mason, we currently have a bunch of D tackles and edges. Why are you drafting 2 in a row?" I think I said, I think you can use Falk more like a chess piece, potentially on the edge and a D tackle. Then you could also, like I said, have Dennis Sutton on the edge. And when you look at the Bears depth chart, how many of us really think that Grady Jarrett or Gavon Dexter or Contavious Street is for sure on this team next year? Right? It's just I can only think, or Dio. I mean, the Bears can get out of the Dio contract as well. So there's only a handful of guys, and really it's Montez Sweat and maybe one other person that I can for sure say is here next year. And I don't have a problem loading up with guys who might be a bit more projects so that the following year they can really hit the ground running.
Yeah. Tell me if you've heard this before. James Franklin recruited and didn't develop freaky athletes because he's a shitty football coach. Tell me if you've heard this before.
I am also banking on him getting away from Franklin and helping.
I can't, man. Like, Dennis Sutton makes me want to throw my iPad when I'm watching. Or Deny. Sorry, I want to get his name there.
Oh, sorry, Deny. Sorry.
Deny. The idea of him is awesome. He tests well. He looks the part. But oh my God, be less late to everything. Just everything is like a day late and $1 short. Like, do you know what you're doing? Or are you just out there? And then I know that it went, I don't want to say viral, but it got pretty popular on the Bears segment of Twitter when his RAS and all his his full measurables came out, like with his 3-cone, a short shuttle, all of it. And it was like a couple of great names. And then it was like Kylie Fitz was on this. Like, guys, there's there's 3 names on here that are absolute garbage football players. Like, stop cherry picking. It's a name of 7. It's a list of 7 names, and 3 of them suck. Like, stop doing this to yourself. Like, just because he's got grit, I feel so often that maybe I'm just way more in tune with watching this than a lot of just the basic Twitterer is, which I'm sure I am. If he's a good football player, why doesn't he play football good? I feel like
I still liked his Phil more than Shamar Stewart's.
Oh well, yeah, that's stepping over the damn bar.
Shamar Stewart, that is kind of the lowest bar that that's the bar we're going to keep using.
If you're saying, hey, step over the bar on the ground, come on. It's just it's so I feel like I'm Billy Bean in Moneyball. If he's a good hitter, why doesn't he hit good? If he's a good football player, why doesn't he football good? At some point, you got to play football good.
I think part of the problem, and I said this in the thing too. I think he plays the run way better than he plays the pass. And is that not what we just said?
100%. I'm just saying he's a frustrating player for me. Is more so than it's just like Keldrick is.
Yeah. But
the problem is, I think Keldrick's just differently made, in terms of his mindset, how he just the person, and you just don't come across 6'6", 280 pounds. That's just a different person. But
imagine if he learns how to go more than one direction on a pass rush. Explosions.
That'd be great. Imagine how many of these guys we've said this about over the past 20 years.
Brendan, do you have any thoughts at all on Deny?
I mean, the only big thing is I honestly, I'm not trying to repeat myself. I also had the same feelings a little bit about Falk, where way more about Sutton, though, when I was I like the idea of him. I look at the production. I watched a few Penn State games this past year, both before and after they completely cratered. And, it was okay from what I saw. The stats look decent. You like that he was able to get numbers with Abdul Carter and after Abdul Carter. But I don't know. I think it's just a little frustrating there as well. I think it's also interesting how Mason, you mentioned roughing penalties. I didn't pick up on that, and just somebody who's a little late to the game. The Bears have quite a few of those guys who just sort of finish plays. Maybe they're not good starters, they finish it, but how well does that, or how great does that look when guys are already 5 yards upfield? So yeah, I think it's okay. I get what you mean. I I get where you're coming from, and I like the idea. I don't mind the idea of like loading up on one position, especially
Not at all.
something like the trenches, like defensive line. If he's there, if you feel comfortable with him, definitely do it.
I actually agree with the idea of using like 2 of your first 4 picks on defensive line. I honestly do. I just don't think this, like, for all this talk about how deep the edge class is, I just don't see it. Like, I don't like most of these players that I've watched. Like, I was
It's a deep but flawed class.
Yeah, it's like
It's weird.
Pick your flavor of things that are going to aggravate you to no end. Like deny at 57 or 60 would be fine. I'd have a lot of questions, especially because this specific.
Where to buy my jersey?
All right, we can move on though. We've spent too much time on deny Dennis Sutton.
we really have. Really quickly before we get to Danny's pick, I just want to highlight Kombucha. Kombucha is a premium performance-focused kombucha crafted specifically for athletes and active individuals. This revitalizing beverage blends the traditional benefits of kombucha with nutritional enhancements to support energy, hydration, and recovery. Made from organic teas and infused with natural electrolytes, Kombucha offers a delicious and effective solution to maintain peak performance, better athletic performance, increased nutrient absorption, improved wellness, and improved cognitive stamina. Use code BEARGUTCHECK for 15% off your order. All right, Danny is up. Round 2, pick 63. We got Davison Igbunasun, Ohio State cornerback.
I'm not sure there's a more Dennis Allen corner in this draft. He's big, long, strong, filled out. He plays bump and run coverage well. He likes to hand fight. He gets into your jersey. Nothing is easy when you line up across from him and he's allowed to be within like striking distance of you. I think if he keeps receivers in front of him and is able to use his actual abilities to his advantage, he's actually a really good like press man corner, which I think ideally is what Dennis Allen wants. He also fills the run. Like it's probably why I like him a lot more than some seem to. If you're a corner who's willing to like step down and fill in on the run game and actually stick your nose in, you have a place in my heart. And maybe that's because I grew up watching the Lovie Smith corners, like where tackling is mandatory or was mandatory under Lovie Smith. Like that's just something they had to do. And he just, he strikes me as someone who I think kind of gets it and like understands what his strengths and weaknesses are, which that then brings you to the weaknesses. When you are physical and willing to mix up with your jersey and get into the jersey and hand fight, that leads to being handsy. And when you get beat, what are you going to do? You're going to use those long limbs and that big frame to kind of make up for your mistakes, which is going to lead to defensive holdings and pass interferences and illegal contact downfield, things of that nature. He doesn't flip his hips and run well. He is going to, I think when you beat him like off release, he struggles to flip and run and recover with people because I don't think he's the greatest straight line athlete on tape. And I will say, for as much as I enjoy a corner who is unafraid of mixing it up and getting in there on tight ends and wide receivers to get to the running back and run support, a lot of times he chooses to do the blow you up tackle method of trying to just throw his shoulder as hard as he can into you versus actually form tackle, wrap up, and drive through his man. That's pretty much it on Davison. I really like him, actually. Like I very much would like to see him in terms of what I think Dennis Allen would like. I just don't know. I struggle with what I've watched versus what the consensus seems to say about him, because I would take him without issue with 57 or 60 and feel fine about it. But it seems like a lot of people who I think know more than me see him more in the third round. And maybe it's just a me thing. Like stylistically, he fits my aesthetic, but I don't know. I feel like sometimes I'm missing something when I watch him.
30 penalties in 4 years is hilarious.
Hey, Brendan, it's called being physical.
There's There's penalties on every play. He just got caught on most of them.
yeah, all right. He just got caught a lot. He's really handsy, all right. I said that.
Yeah.
Hey, I like him too. I took him in a previous mock. I agree. You just have to hope that you can coach the penalties either out of him or just make him be able to do it more discreetly. But I do like
I
the
knew
player.
there was a lot. I didn't have the exact number. 30-4 is rough, dude.
It's a lot. It's a lot. Brendan's up. Round 3, pick 69. Again, nice. Julian Neal, cornerback out of Kansas.
Oh, there's another one.
Yeah, I was just gonna say when you were talking about the Ohio State guy, I was like, okay, we're on the same same level here. Another physical cornerback. He's pretty. I think he's a little heavier than Davison. 6'2", 203, out of Arkansas. Spent the first 4 years of his career at Fresno State. Another older guy, so he's 5 years into his career at college. So take that for what it is, but. Look, he plays super physical. He's super long, good in pass, especially press. You talk about handling guys, like this is a guy who can manhandle receivers, get his hands all over them. Really, I'd say good in run support as well from what I was seeing. There's some knocks about him about just like not getting his head around. From some things I've seen, I actually think he does a pretty good job of it. So getting a physical guy like Julian Neal, I think he's, easily somebody who would compete for a starting job with Tyreek Stevenson, maybe Zay Frazier, who knows where that stands at this point. But look, the Bears need another cornerback. I think, Danny's mock shows that, my mock shows that, because there's just a lot of uncertainty about how the coaching staff feels about Stevenson, what Frazier's going to do, how Smith is going to come back, and losing Sean Wright. And also, I mean, I think we all expect Jalen Johnson to come back and play at that, semi Pro Bowl level. But, we'll see how that injury, we'll see how he bounces back fully from his groin injury last year. But yeah, I like what Julian Neal showed on tape. Again, big physical guy. I think it'd be a lot of fun in Dennis Allen's defense. And yeah, give you at least somebody who can compete to be a starter on the outside.
I'm just thoroughly convinced at this point, like whether it's Enigma Madison or Neal, I feel like Marshawn Lattimore is coming at some point as like just a veteran, like cheap thing because Dennis Allen knows him.
I can see that. Yeah.
God.
Yeah.
All right, I'm up. Round 3, pick 75. I went with my center of the future, Connor Lew, out of Auburn. 6'3.5", 310 pounds, 32 3/8 arms. He's a team captain, 3 years of SEC starting experience dating to his true freshman season, giving him a battle-tested foundation that really few other centers have. Really natural bender with good foot quickness and athleticism that shows in the Auburn run scheme. Great pre-snap processor. He does a good job, and you can see this. He points out stunts and twists, delayed blitzes. I believe it was Hogan Johns. They talked to both Ben Johnson and Poles. Ben talked about how important that center position was with Drew Dahlman for Caleb and how it'll continue to be so with Bradbury. And they're still hoping to keep stuff off of Caleb's plate. And this is a guy that can, I think, pick that up as well. Really good snap reach, step quickness, strong hands and core to help seal at the point. Really plays really physical, which is great, and has a bit of a good mean streak to him. Consistent, can re-leverage really well. Very good in pass protection. I mean, he had 1 sack allowed and 442 pass blocking reps as a sophomore. Wrestling background shows up, and I love my wrestlers. So anytime I can throw a wrestler on here, I'm going to. And I also don't think his frame isn't filled out, so he could add some functional weight to himself. Biggest red flag, early draft entry in October 2025. He had an ACL injury, right? So that limited his career snap count. But on the positive side, he doesn't have to start right away. He can come along slower because you got Bradbury for this whole year if you wanted to. Average footwork to hit landmarks in wide zone. He does need to play with lighter feet and pass protection because he can be a bit plodding at times. Faster rushers can get his edges, and he can tend to overset a bit on counter moves. But his toughness, his intelligence, his leadership give him a bump for me that I really like. Has some core traits. The long view as a starter with upside as long as the knee holds up. He's only 20 with 3 years of SEC, like I said, reps with really high athleticism, which is pretty crazy. There was an NFC scouting personnel director that said a lot of centers this year don't translate into our game like Lou will. My comp when I watched him was with like Zach Frazier when he was coming out.
I do like the idea of drafting somebody as young as Lou who can still sit behind a veteran. I think that's a really good point.
I'm up again. Round 3, pick 87. Another defensive lineman, this time in the interior, Rayshon Benny out of Michigan. 6'3", 298 pounds, 33 3/8 arms. He's a bit of a tough eval, but he's got good length, consistent engaging in blocks, and an effective two-gap player who does a good job of finding the ball, shedding the block, and getting to the ball. But he's body type. He's not very wide, and he can struggle to anchor when double teamed. So it's a really double-edged sword for him. On the pro side, he's got good arm over moves to get past guards into gaps, works well from blocker to blocker with really active hands, a really good run defender who holds his gap and locates the ball carrier pretty quickly, and I would say solid lateral foot quickness to challenge the edge as a rusher, and a reliable tackler in space he's a pretty low missed tackle rate. I forgot to write it down, but it's lower throughout his whole career. On the negative side, only one season of full-time starter. He can let his pads get a bit too high. Pretty kind of inconsistent body control on the move. And stop me if you've heard this before, a defensive tackle with a medical history of a broken fibula in 2023. And he also had knee surgery in high school from a car accident. So I wouldn't be surprised if the teams in general kind of stayed away from him because of some of the medical history. The Bears specifically, as they have been dealing with a broken fibula that became an ACL tear. But I think he's a good depth piece, but I really doubt he ever becomes a starter for you, but a good rotational piece.
I didn't care for Rayshon Benny when I watched him.
Yeah, I was in a weird spot where I just was like, I feel like I do need more depth on the D line. He was quote unquote my best option there. Of my picks, he's the one I'm least excited about, to be quite honest. I'm more excited about my next one. But Brendan, round 3, pick 89, with Darrell Jackson Jr., defensive tackle, Florida State.
Big fella.
I love that guy.
Yeah, massive guy, 6'5", 315. I would say, he's a pretty good run defender from what I was seeing. What are my notes on him here? Big effective run stuffer. He has a high motor. Also kind of what you were saying, Mason, about your last guy with Benny, needs to play lower. And I just put parentheses like Jervon. But I think like finding somebody like that, later on in the third round, not bad, solid depth. I just think about adding somebody like him with a veteran defensive line like Grady Jarrett, allowing him to develop, rotate with him. So he has the chance to grow. Had 3.5 sacks in 2024, 4 sacks. No, I'm looking at the wrong thing. 3.5 sacks in 2024, only 1 last year for Florida State. So I know I kept thinking of like a big Florida State guy and defensive tackle. I was like, oh, he could be like Eddie Goldman. Not as good as Eddie Goldman, but bigger. So I think he's a decent option for where you're picking there in the third round. Also, real quickly, do we know if he's related to Gerald Jackson, the Seahawks receiver?
Could not tell you.
Okay.
But I took Darrell Jackson, I think, back in the first round mock. I like his play, and I think it's a good pick for where you're getting him at. He's just a kind of close-ish to the world theory that Danny likes to operate under. He moves really well for someone that's as big as he is.
Mm-hmm.
Danny is up, round 3, pick 89. Jake Slaughter, aka Professor Pancake, which I believe, actually, Brendan, you were the first person I saw.
I'm so glad you said that. Let's go.
Center out of Florida. Take it away, Danny. Danny, you're muted again. Yeah, I think it was right before I picked him. I saw you call him that, and then obviously pairing it with the picture from him in the comment. I was like, that is perfect. What a great name, Brendan.
Oh, man.
Okay. I don't know what's going on. I'm having issues right now, but I figured it out, I think. So basically, to kind of give you the quick synopsis, I know Mason took him. a couple months ago, I believe. But the biggest thing that stands out to me is he moves well and gets to the second level well. He has good athleticism to get on reach blocks. He is very mobile, and almost all of his strengths come from the fact that he's a good athlete at the center position, and he's clearly very smart. I think he understands what his responsibilities are. And then you get to the other part where, Mason, I know I went on my spiel a couple weeks ago about having to really diagnose body types and looking at him. He looks like he was almost meant to be a basketball player. He's really tall and like narrow. He's not wide.
Right.
And I think his frame is maxed out. I don't think he's going to get much, if any, bigger, rather.
Agreed.
And that's fine. Like, but you just have to understand what you're drafting in that regard. He's going to get bullied at times. Like, he doesn't stand up well to bull rush, I don't think. And that's typical of a lot of centers. There's a reason they're not playing guard. You know, I actually think he's a really good fit. And I was actually talking with Quentin Crisco about it. And Quentin brought up that he reminds him of Drew Dahlman. And once he said that, I totally get it. Like, because good athlete, lacks grip strength, good, not great in both facets of both run and pass protection. But just, I don't know that he's ever going to be a star so much as just really good for a really long time, which is totally fine, especially when you're that smart. I'm not sure that there's a better seamless fit at the center class in this draft. But I also understand people who may want the kid from Iowa or Kansas State. Sam Hecht is a very popular name when they found out the Bears visited him on his pro day. But I'm just saying, in terms of, and maybe it's just because now I have this bias in my brain of Quentin mentioning he reminds him of Drew Dahlman, and now I see it. And then you see all the similarities between him and Slaughter at Florida. And it's like, yeah, that's kind of the guy I think they should walk away with based on just what it looks like to me.
No, and this is similar to, there's a couple positions, like we talked about edge, receiver is like this in the first round specifically, and I think center throughout, it's kind of the beauty is in the eye of the beholder. I mean, there's 4 or 5 guys, and to be honest, I don't think any of us really, besides maybe a guy like Quentin you just mentioned, or Brandon Thorne, really are good at looking enough at offensive line play, specifically guard and even more specifically center. So I do the best I can to look at center, but I'm very okay at best at it probably. It's just an interesting thing to look at because, and this is more of an overall conversation on centers for the most part, if you're like really athletic and really good, like you just kind of alluded to, Danny, you're playing guard. Like you're not being shoved at center. Mm-hmm. But we've seen time and time again, specifically in Chicago and overall, how important the center position is. So it's so hard to project. Like if you could project center better,
how much of that is just the complication of Ben Johnson's offense and how deep it is and how much understanding is needed, that he just wants a great center.
Yeah, you need a very smart, good center.
And maybe that was a formula formed for him from Frank Ragnow, and being a guy, if injuries didn't take him from us kind of thing, who would have been a shoo-in for the Hall of Fame. Like, I genuinely don't know. But clearly, from them being connected by every major expert and now visiting guys like Sam Hecht, and I believe the kid from, is it Wake Forest or Georgia Tech, who's a guard, but theoretically could transition to center, whose name I'm totally blanking on. Like, clearly they were going to value the center position more than a lot of teams, even in a bad draft. Like, I don't know.
Well, and last thing I'll say on this before we move on to the next pick is, I remember, was it who's the center the Bears had a lot recently? Who he was on walk the Commanders, and then he got injured and got cut, and people were like, Stromberg, thank you.
Oh, Stromberg, yeah.
So he came from that draft where the Bears arguably missed on a bunch of center options, right? They just didn't take anyone that people wanted to take. But how many of those centers actually worked out? Like that fans were pounding the table of, why didn't you take this guy? Stromberg was one of them. The Texans center
Michael Schmitz?
John Michael Schmitz might have been in that draft too. He's like very okay. Again, long story short, center's hard to look at. Center's hard to project. Stop freaking out about your center until you can freak out about a center. Oh, I'm up. Round 3, pick 89, Zakee Wheatley, safety out of Penn State, another Penn State guy who probably has not been maximized. 6'3", 203-pound senior, played in 12 games, finished with 74 tackles, an interception, and 2 pass breakups while logging the second most defensive snaps on the roster. But you heard that right. He only had 2 pass breakups and 1 interception this last year. That's not great production. On the positive side, long athletic safety who was trending upward overall in his career. One of the biggest things I saw, I actually did look at some 2024 tape too, is that his decisiveness and coverage was way better, can play from a variety of alignments. A lot of the issues I find with the safeties in this class, while it's a deep class, they really can only play like one position. Like take Emmanuel Warren McNeil. Right now, he's definitely going to play more in that run support role than further back for you in the NFL. It's not saying he can't develop that, because he maybe just wasn't asked to do so. But I can see on tape that Wheatley can play in a variety of those alignments. He's always around the football, whether it's against the run or the pass. He's a physical playing downhill, can close on the run quickly, opens his hips really well. Length helps a lot in terms of open field tackling. On the negative side, probably the biggest thing is he can overplay at times. So that'll leave him out of position, but that's just because he plays with his hair on fire. You got to just kind of wrangle him in. Tackling technique when wrapping up he tends to fall around the ankles instead of truly wrapping. Now he has the length to tackle properly, but he tends to sometimes dive instead of driving into his tackles, and can play the nickel, but not his best position, as he can more easily lose his assignments. I actually really, really liked him. I don't understand why more people aren't higher on him, to be quite honest. I would take him over a couple other people who are mocked in currently in the second round. So I just really like Wheatley, and I kind of saw the way he plays is very Cam Curl-esque.
I do too. It kind of feels like he's falling a bit because early on it felt like he was maybe a mid-second round pick, and now he's projected here in the 3rd round, and feels like even then some mocks I'm seeing him go like even round 4. So
yeah, it's just I think it's 3, early 4.
Okay.
Yeah, and to me, I mean, I'm not an expert on safety play, but the tape to me doesn't show that. But I don't know if it's just he's just getting pushed down by some other guys, and maybe, but it's not like his testing was bad. I don't know. I don't get it, but I really like him. Brendan's up, round 4, pick 106. Ketron Allen, running back out of Penn State. A lot of Penn State on this show.
Mr. Boring. Good God.
You don't like it?
Allen's fine. He's just boring.
Yeah, I think I don't know. You're right. He doesn't do anything like special, but he's just. I feel like he's good overall.
I feel like coaches love him because he does exactly what's asked of him. Hey, K-Tron,
that's a good point.
Do this. Cool. Got you, coach.
Right. No, and the thing I really liked about him this past year is like Drew Aller gets hurt, James Franklin is fired. It feels like Penn State just went to hell, especially on offense too. I know we can say, we talked about their defense earlier, but Allen continued to produce, especially even when like everybody knew that Penn State doesn't have a quarterback, their offense isn't doing much. He still produced even against Ohio State. I know he only had 76 yards, but he had a rushing touchdown. Not many people were running against Ohio State. Again, I think he does a lot of good things, a lot of things well, nothing spectacular. So yeah, I think for a 4th round pick, you add him to that room with DeAndre Swift and Kyle Monangai. You have somebody who can be a quality rotational back there.
Yeah, and arguably to an extent, isn't that kind of what you need? I mean, depending on what your long-term view on Swift is and all that, just someone that you hand the ball, like just kind of the coach, can you get me 3 yards? I got you 3 yards. Can you get me 4 yards? I got you 3 yards. Kind of a guy, like just make a cut and get what we need.
And I wasn't trying to like by any stretch. Like I actually really like K-Tron Allen. If you told me I could have a pick between him and Singleton, I'm taking Allen because I think Singleton has no idea what he's doing. But Allen is just, it's very much just hand him the ball. He's going to get you your 3 to 4 yards, and he runs hard as hell. He really does run hard. I think he's so limited athletically that you can't really give him a lot of shares or touches because he's going to just not be able to do a ton with them no matter how much he understands or wants to do certain things.
Can you get me a yard on 3rd and 1?
Sure.
Great,
Probably.
because the Bears still suck at that, so I'm fine.
It did feel like when I was watching him, and going back and watching him, he really likes to cut outside. He's really good on that.
He does.
He's got runs.
He's got really good feel for when he needs to plant and go.
Yeah, so you would like to see a little bit better in between the tackles, but still, I mean, and right now you're getting into those middle rounds where you're like, hey, if you can be a quality player for me and have a few good years in that 4th round.
To Brendan's point on him, the best thing he does is hug his blocks and stay close to his guys before he makes his cut. It's like he understands what his weaknesses are, so he can make the most of his abilities.
Which is very cognizant of someone being drafted in the 4th round. Brendan, up again, round 4, pick 129, Logan Jones, center out of Iowa.
Yep. So another one of those. I mean, we had talked about it earlier with the center, kind of, pick your flavor, pick somebody you like. Jake Slaughter, I really do like him, and if we can have Professor Pancakes on the team, that would just make me so happy. But I think Logan Jones would be a good option as well. He's a little undersized, a little bit older, but I think he and Bradbury probably have similar types of games or similar types of skill set and how they play their games. Excels more in zone blocking. I think, I think he's somebody who you could potentially depend on as a starter full time. We know Iowa offensive linemen usually turn out well, so maybe a little bit of helmet scouting there. I think he would be a decent option there.
Also, a fantastic mustache.
You and your mustaches, Mason.
Point to a player with a mustache that's bad, and I'll point to a player that didn't exist. Danny, round 4, pick 129. Torian York, Texas A&M linebacker.
Mason's guy. All right.
Yeah.
So I finally got around, since he was taken, I believe, in the very first show we did of this year, to watching him. I got through 3 games, and I liked him. I just wish he wasn't.
No, moving on. Next pick. We don't have to do the next part. Great.
He's tiny. He's very small, man. He is small. So I will say he reads and reacts well. He's especially good when getting out to the flats or for screens. Like, he really does just understand what's happening in that role. He's got great production. He's a tackling machine. He's got Bobby Boucher's tackling few, as they would say. But I just can't get past certain things of once the blocker's on him, he's not coming off. And once sometimes I think his anticipation goes to guesswork because he abandons his keys trying to get to where he needs to go. I think to avoid the incoming blockers, whether it be a tight end, a safety, or a wide receiver coming across to just kind of get on him, get on his body. I think sometimes maybe it goes with the anticipation thing. I think sometimes he doesn't put his full body into the tackles kind of thing because he might be trying to avoid certain levels of contact. But he does well for what he's given. Like, if he were
All right, I just muted you, Danny, because I think your mic was making a crazy sound.
Yeah, it just started going like staticky. I wasn't sure if that was me or okay.
Yeah, I tried muting me for a second. I was like, nope, it wasn't me. There we go. Okay.
Yeah. Basically, all of his negatives come back to some version or iteration of him being tiny, no matter how good he is. Like, I think a player like him, or here, let me just make sure I get this correct. I want to make sure that I got this right. A player like him or Lewis from Pitt. Like,
Lewis, yeah.
I like Lewis more, but I think both those guys in some weird way missed the boat in terms of, like, had they come into the league like a decade ago when guys like Mark Barron were being dropped down into safety, or the safety from Washington, I want to say, who got drafted by the Cardinals and they moved him down, Dalen Buchanan, is that right? And they moved him to safety, or from safety to linebacker. I feel like in some version, guys like Lewis and York just kind of missed the boat on the smaller linebacker thing, because the league is coming back around to bigger linebackers because the running game is coming back in a bigger way.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, especially, I mean, depending on where you're getting these guys, per chance, they're just destined to be third rotational Sam linebackers who give you special teams.
Hey, I'd be totally fine with Torian York at this level, but I know people would Bears fans would look at his highlights and be like, this guy is going to be a star, and I would just have to be like, oh man, I think we need to temper some expectations, everyone.
I'm up round 4, pick 129. Going to move through these ones a bit quicker here.
Yep.
Charles Demings, cornerback out of Stephen F. Austin. He really athletic, scored a 9.97 RAS, finished his career with 63 tackles, 9 interceptions, and 35 passes defended across 42 games. Smooth hips, resulting in smooth transitions, speed and length to blanket routes, tackled much better as a senior, seems to have a natural feel for when routes will break, and has the vertical and mentality to contest above the rim. His sophomore tape was bad. Do not go watch the sophomore tape. It was give up way too many easy completions underneath, and it looked lost. You kind of question, is that still there somewhere, or is the growth he's had really real? He hasn't really proved that he can slide and mirror a quality release, and he can definitely get a bit grabby mid route when he feels a receiver pulling away. And he's a bit of a below average run supporter. But if you want to look at the tools, my draft today is very toolsy in nature. He got that, and he was on an upward trajectory. Now, keep in mind, this is at Stephen F. Austin, so you also have to look at who he's playing. But in the 4th round, could do worse. Technically, we have Danny up. DeMonte Capehart, defensive interior out of Clemson. But
yeah, so
he's back.
No, I was doing something for my kid.
Great.
So DeMonte Capehart is the other interior defender from Clemson, not named Peter Woods. Hey, enough. So he looks like a traditional, to me, defensive tackle that Dennis Allen would go for. He has good athleticism. He has a decent amount of production behind the line with 13.5 tackles for loss and 3 sacks. And he's not an awful run defender from what I gather, or from what I can tell, but I don't know that he's a great one. I struggle with like where he lies in that like little zone of like, how good is he in the run? And then weakness wise, where's my notes? I think more so than anything, he relies on his traits and his ability to just be big and athletic versus anything technical. He does a lot of just, I'm going to overpower you and use my will against you because I know I'm just a superior person. He doesn't really do well with picking up blocks in terms of if there's a more non-straight ahead blocking scheme. What are you doing? And he just, I don't know. There's a reason he's in the 4th round. I think if you get him at this juncture, you've got yourself a solid rotational guy that can offer some of the pass rush. And I think he moves well, which for the amount that Dennis Allen stunts and has his defensive tackles running around and trying to get loose to get free sacks and tackles on running backs from the pocket, that you're doing well to get him where he is. I think he's a actually very solid bet that if they don't take one early, that you could see him being a target in the middle rounds.
Beautiful. I'm up round 7, pick 227. I took Jimmy Rolder, linebacker out of Michigan. From Orland Park, Illinois, had a top 30 visit with the Bears. Really great instincts and run game consistency. Attacks plays, doesn't sit on his heels. Reads his keys quickly in the run game and triggers downhill. Heavy hands when separating from a lineman, and almost never allows broken tackles. Pretty like textbook tackling technique. And penalty-free career at Michigan, which speaks to his discipline. But only 11 starts, below average length and speed limits his tackle chances wide, below average cover talents, and his pass rush is more about efforts really than like true impact. Now, the lack of starting experience is a bit of a flag, but the tape in 2025 shows a player who can be a reliable run-stuffing linebacker at the pro level, and in the right scheme, he could work his way into a true starting role by year 2. But there is a ceiling ultimately to what he is, kind of like Jack Sanborn. No? Yeah, just 11 starts in college. Brendan, round 7, pick 239. Eric McAllister, wide receiver, TCU.
So when I made this pick, I didn't realize that he suffered I think it was a Lisfranc fracture at his pro day like a day earlier. And I was like, oh, crap, this doesn't look as good.
No.
I know. I'm like, and also McAllister, he's also got a checkered past. I think he was arrested a few years ago.
Probably shouldn't do that.
Yeah. So there's a lot of risk with this pick, but at the same time, it's a 7th round dart throw. McAllister had over 1,000 yards for TCU last year, 10 touchdowns. He was a beast. He has blazing speed. Just kind of bullied quite a few defensive backs when he was at TCU. I love the way he plays receiver. I think he's got a great catch radius. He's big, he's fast, he's strong. Just there's a lot of question marks there. So look, for a team, maybe like the Matt Eberflus Bears a few years ago, I would not take this pick. I do think the Bears could use a depth wide receiver, but somebody like with Ben Johnson leading the way and having a strong locker room, I think taking a chance on somebody like McAllister, even with those injuries that have popped up, wouldn't be the worst thing. I think, there's a chance that maybe not this year, but next year he could be somebody who's producing as a rotational receiver.
Not too shabby. Danny, round 7, pick 239. Roman Hemby, running back out of Indiana.
I was really excited to see him here because usually he goes a little higher than this from what I've noticed. But Hemby is my preferred member of the Indiana Hoosier backfield of the guys that are out this year. And the thing I like most about him is just a hard charger. He runs hard as hell. He stays close to his blocks. He makes very decisive one-cut reads and gets upfield. He rarely is brought down by arm tackles. He's running so hard. He also does not fumble, which is big thing. That was my big thing with even Monangai coming out of Rutgers. He didn't put the ball in the turf, and Hemby also does not put the ball in the turf very often. He's also probably the more pass catching back from there. You got very good, if not reliable hands, and you can rely on him to be a bit more. I think he's got juice to him on top of all the running hard, which I think when you're talking about, I believe this is probably DeAndre Swift's last year in Chicago, that you're probably going to be talking about needing a replacement. And I think Hemby might be a bit of a late round gem if you get him in the right scenario, which I think with how Ben Johnson wants to run the football and the scheme they run, given what I've seen on tape, that he might be a really good fit for what they want to do. His big issue is, for as much as he does ride his blocks tight, his vision's inconsistent. He is smaller. He's not the most loose athlete. He's more of I would say, tightly wound athlete, which makes doing certain things hard and limits him athletically. And he just kind of runs high, and guys that run high tend to open themselves up for big blows. Is not an enormous running back.
All right. I stuck in Indiana. in the round 7 pick 239, taking Riley Nowakowski, tight end out of Indiana. And I say tight end, but I think he's going to do that tight end kind of fullback role in theory for the Bears. 6'2", 250-pound senior, so a dense individual. Ran a 4.66 40-yard dash. His RES was okay. It was 7.96. Really, he got hurt by his height there, and along with his vertical and his broad, but that's not why you're taking him. This is a guy that, for me, like when I'm watching Iowa games to scout other players, I couldn't help but just keep seeing what Riley was doing in the blocking game. He also started all 16 games for this team. He fits the run on blocks really, really well with good timing and accuracy. Is excellent on unlocking and rolling his hips into those blocks. His technique is really impressive, but he pairs that with great core strength. Allowed just 2 total pressures across 154 pass blocking snaps for Indiana. And as a pass catcher, he's pretty unfazed through the route and catch contact. He didn't have to drop a single pass on 36 targets during the 2025 season. He also did force 10 missed tackles. So just imagining him as that tight end / kind of fullback role that we saw last year that, just leaks out into the flat, and just, if you can turn a 3-yard catch into a 7-yard catch because you force a tackle, that's good by me. He is undersized at the position, limits his ceiling. Long edge rushers can stab and discard his protection. And then, he'll struggle to separate on versus man and below at run after catch quickness. But his ceiling is a blocking tight end who catches 20 to 30 balls a year and provides offensive flexibility. But he really should have a pretty solid place on any 53-man roster, especially if he can contribute on special teams. Brendan, round 7, pick 241, Aaron Hall, defensive tackle out of Duke.
Yep. Team captain for them last year. Really productive career for Duke. Last year, he had 11 tackles for loss. In 2024, he had 8 tackles for loss. People, from what I was reading, just, have nothing but great things to say about this guy's character. I think this is another excellent dart throw, especially for, going after the trenches, somebody who could be a rotational guy. And, some places even think that he could even become like a starter at some point. Who knows? Maybe he's this year's Kyrus Tunga, only the Bears keep him for more than 1 year. But just, I think I think Hall's production was solid. Again, having a team captain like that going on the defensive line at late 7th round pick. He was pretty productive. A little bit undersized, but why not just stack up on the trenches as much as possible?
No problem with that whatsoever. Danny, round 7, pick 241. We're getting near the end here. Caden Wetjen, wide receiver out of Iowa. I bullied PFF into actually adding him into the system because I had to MacGyver him into it when I took him a couple mocks ago.
Obviously you took him a couple mocks ago, but much more return guy that you're drafting at this juncture of the draft than a wide receiver. I think that's what you're pretty much taking him for, right? He owns the Iowa records for kick returns and punt return touchdowns. He averaged nearly 27 yards of punt return in 21 tries last year. I don't know. I don't really see him much in the vein of being a wide receiver. I think you're literally drafting him to be a returner. And with what the Bears have at the wide receiver position, especially given what I think they're probably expecting of Khalif Raymond, who I know is a all-pro level returner in his own right, I think they're going to be viewing him, unless Jediah Walker just lights the world on fire. I think they're very much expecting Khalif Raymond to be a pretty significant contributor in the wide receiver room. And honestly, I don't really want I don't want a very high-level contributor in the receiver room to be a returner. That's too detrimental to what your offense could need. And Wetjen would fill a need of just, hey, be the return specialist, and if we work in some gadget plays or jet sweeps or something for you in the offense, take it for what it is, but you are here to return kicks and punts.
I was going to say, I could almost guarantee if the Bears have to Wetjen that there would be, when you're doing the highlights of the Bears 26-27 season, there are 2 plays, one of which is a big touchdown that Wetjen gets. That's just how stories like that go.
Yeah. I don't think much of him is a wide receiver because most of his highlights are not for wide receivers. It's being a return guy.
Well, it's also Iowa. I mean, the offense is
Well, yeah,
Very
because
limited.
remember, Bears took Hawkeyes legend Corey Taylor to be a punter here, and he was their best offensive weapon a couple of years ago.
Speaking of special teams, in round 7, pick 241, I took kicker Jaffer Murphy out of UTSA.
Oh my god!
6'1", 185-pound senior, former college soccer player. A little bit of background. His path is really unique, to say the least. He was born in Liberia in West Africa, moved to the United States in 2006, adopted here, played soccer, basketball, and football in high school, talented enough to play soccer at Drake and Florida Gulf Coast. And then he decided to give football a try in 2024, where he played at Division II Erie College, went 13 for 21 on field goals, and connected for him as far as 60 yards before transferring to UTSA. Murphy is now known because he put a show on his pro day. I mean, he ran a 4.5 40-yard dash, connected on 12 of 13 field goals with a long of 70. Why didn't you hear about him before? Because he was really just their kickoff specialist. Played in all 13 contests, recorded 54 touchbacks on 88 of his kickoffs. Those ranks are the second on the school's single season list, while his total kickoffs are the second most in program history. Logged 8 touchbacks in the 61-13 home win over Rice. And then he transferred to UTSA, like I said, from Lake Erie. I mean, during his pro day, actually, Scotts walked up to him and asked if he would run the L drill and 3-cone drill after he ran his 40 to show off his quickness and agility. He did them, and the same scouts asked if he would be comfortable doing some positional drills as a DB, a position he's never played before. And Murphy said, I'm a kicker, but I can also be an athlete, so I'd love to. And he said, I just wanted to go out there and have some fun, and they reminded me I had nothing to lose. I mean, Murphy's not going to get drafted next month. He's just not. But this was my excuse to talk about him. But he really could land on an NFL team as an undrafted free agent or as a tryout player for a rookie minicamp. And, if a strong-legged soccer player with a little college football experience becomes an NFL kicker, seems far-fetched. It shouldn't. Brandon Aubrey, now a 3-time Pro Bowler, played soccer at Notre Dame and in the MLS before trying football with 2 years in the USFL before he landed with Dallas. Even closer parallel, kicker Jake Bates played college soccer and did kickoffs only at Texas State and Arkansas, played in the UFL and before he was cut and then ended up being with Detroit. So I don't know. I think it's a fun story. I think he could, if you have a leg to hit 70 yards in today's NFL, that's very important. And couldn't you see him doing a little something with Ben Johnson? I mean, come on, running that 4.5 time, like give him a jet sweep. It'd be fun.
Until your kicker blows his leg off.
That's a future problem.
Think of the fakes.
The fakes would be so good. Like I said, offer him some money, bring him into camp, and I'm always about competition. I know Cairo has been nails in terms of his accuracy. His distance is still a bit of a problem. So I just think that it'd be a fun camp tryout that maybe you can stash him on your practice squad for a while, and he just develops into a longer term kicker for you that just catches a touchdown. Yeah. No big deal.
And to your point, Mason, about even the kickers, but even punters, like this is why I just am vehemently against spending high capital or mid capital on them. You mentioned like Brandon Aubrey and Jake Bates. Even the punter, AJ Cole from, I believe, Las Vegas was like a rookie camp tryout guy who's now the highest paid punter in football, I believe. Like, find the guys that got tools who maybe haven't done it very long and figure it out. You don't need to spend capital on guys like Corey freaking Taylor. You just don't.
Oh yeah, this was the slide that was supposed to be up there when I was talking about the draft party. Cool. So now you guys, if you can see it here, it looks really cool, right? Just a reminder, we have that draft party on draft night, April 23rd. Come hang out. It's going to be a great time. We have tons of giveaways. And like I said, I'm going to give away beers to the first 5 people that show up. And on that note, if you're one of the 174-ish people currently watching this, if you could just zip over to YouTube, give us a like, and give us a comment even, that really helps us with the algorithm. All right, I would really appreciate it.
Like and subscribe.
All right. I didn't, and also obviously did not change my name to Brandon's name. I'm on a roll today. That's what happens when you're trying to do this while treating patients at the same time. But I'm not going to read this. Y'all can look at this later. I'm going to post it on Twitter. We have all 3 of our mocks posted here. Brandon's is the middle one that obviously, again, I did not change the name on, but it was a great time. Brendan, thank you so much for joining us. It's always a blast having you on. Your knowledge is great. Can you just tell everyone where they can find your stuff? And I mean, I know you were talking about some things you have in the pipeline, but just, give them your spiel.
Sure. No, thank you guys so much for having me. I know it's fun to talk draft. I'm not like the biggest draft guy, but it is fun to just go into prospects and hear what you guys have to say, and just break down different prospects that I'm not even looking at yet. So Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at Brendan Sugrue. That's Sugrue. Check out my stuff at Bears Wire. I am teasing a very big interview coming out next Wednesday with a former player that everybody knows and loves. Honestly,
Ooh.
and I was telling Mason this before, I don't want to say who it is yet. The stories that I got on the record from this person being drafted by the Bears, I am so excited to share. So can't wait for everybody to read it. But yeah, make sure you follow me there. And yeah, thank you again for having me. It was great talking with you guys.
Yeah, that sounds like a must read. Y'all absolutely go ahead and check that
Can't
article
wait.
out. It's gonna be a fun one. But thanks everyone for listening.